Corbett has the floor as co-rapporteur.
Thank you very much, President, and may I also thank my co-rapporteur. This was very much a team effort, not just between two co-rapporteurs, but between two committees and indeed among multiple political groups. Our task, of course, was to assess the implementation of this important interinstitutional agreement that we made with the Commission and the Council 2 years ago. And overall, our assessment is a positive one, even if there are still two strands being negotiated on international agreements and on the delimitation between implementing acts and delegated acts. They will come back to this Parliament, but what has been agreed so far has, on the whole, been well implemented. We have moved to having greater transparency in the legislative process. We have moved towards having better legislative planning. We have moved to improve our legislative procedures. We have improved the consultation of stakeholders. And we have looked and improved the process of impact assessments, which are very important. But all this, of course, is a question of getting the right balance. And take impact assessments and the whole issue of what we are trying to do with them. Yes, we want to be better informed about the potential impacts of the laws that we adopt in this Parliament on those who will be affected by them. Absolutely right. But it's not just how laws affect small and medium-sized enterprises, as some campaigners seem to sometimes imply. It is about how the legislation affects other stakeholders, consumers, workers, third parties, government finances, the environment. It's a question of getting all of these things in balance. And secondly, this is not about deregulation. It's about better regulation. When we adopt legislation, it is usually for good reason. And especially at European level, if we adopt legislation at European level, it is not, as some in the media sometimes portray, the European Commission spewing out regulations on hapless member states who don't even know that it's being inflicted upon them. No, there is a high threshold to adopt legislation at European level. It needs the approval of this Parliament and of the Council composed of national ministers, members of national governments, accountable to their national parliaments, who need the high threshold of a qualified majority representing 65% of the population to approve anything. So the idea that we inflict legislation on hapless member states is nonsense. We only legislate at European level where there is a high degree of consensus that it is advantageous to do so. That is an important political safeguard, and I would remind those people, usually sat over there, but I see none of them are here tonight, those people who claim that the EU inflicts all this red tape and bureaucracy on small and medium-sized enterprises. And I'd add one further thing. When we get it right, European legislation is an exercise in cutting red tape for businesses, because having one set of rules instead of 28 different, divergent set of rules in a single market makes things simpler for businesses. They don't have to adapt to every single segment of the market, adapting their product, changing it, changing the labelling, changing the marketing everywhere. They have life simplified when we get European legislation right. So it is not about deregulating, it's about regulating better. And at the moment we see actually an example of a member state, my own country, beginning to discover the multiple problems that arise if you begin, as it intends to do, to diverge in its regulations from the rest of its main market. All the multiple extra costs that will arise, all the extra difficulties, all the economic problems that will ensue. So I leave you with that final thought. Thank you, Mr. President, for indulging me for a few extra seconds.
Thank you very much.